Hello and welcome back to Mind of Success. I'm your host, Moni, a Mexican British living in Asia. I work in fintech and build digital banks from scratch. In my years in the industry, I've realized most of us are in a vulnerable financial position. However, building a business can be a catalyst for change. So I created this podcast. It's about business stories we do not talk about. I chat with entrepreneurs, CEOs, and experts about their journeys, struggles, and lessons to extract gems of wisdom and practical tools so that we can thrive and create the impact we want. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mind of Success. As usual, today we will have a very interesting woman in the house. Whoop, whoop. So we've got Alexandra Lunn. Welcome, Alexandra.
Hi.
Hello. I'm very excited to have you here.
Me too. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. So basically, Alexandra is the founder and design director at Alexandra Lunn Studio, a brand and design studio that creates brands for businesses and bodies that want to stand out from the crowd. So as you can imagine, today we're going to talk a little bit about her journey, her life story, and basically brand design. But before we go into the full conversation, the spirit of the podcast is also to celebrate each other and to celebrate ourselves and to celebrate life. So I'll start with that. Alexandra, what are you celebrating today?
Celebrating that it's sunny outside.
Yes.
And yeah, just that get the opportunity to speak with you, and I feel like you can take the little things for granted. So I guess just celebrating life without wanting to sound cheesy.
Yes, no, totally. Like today, like on my side, it's like I'm celebrating. I feel rested. You know,
That's
like
enough,
I've been working a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've been tired, but then I've taken the time to reconnect, to renourish, to be grounded again. And I'm like, oh, I feel rested and energetic. So I'm celebrating that.
What time is it over there now?
It is 9 p.m.
Oh, God, you're so like alive for 9. Thank you for seeing me so late.
Yeah.
Over here it's 2, isn't it? So
2 p.m.
I'm in London, you're in Singapore. Yeah.
In Kuala Lumpur. Yeah. Awesome. So let's get into your story. So what I find fascinating about you, it's like how young you started a business, basically. So you went to uni. You went to uni in London, you went to uni in Glasgow, then you lived abroad, you've been in the UK, in Hungary, in the Netherlands. And just like 3 years after finishing uni, you decided to be like, you know what? I'm going to start my business.
Yeah.
What was going on in your mind? Like it's a different type of woman that does that. Yeah.
I think I am like, I think differently, I think, and I guess that helps with like the design work that we create. But I guess I also went to uni like a little bit later, so I was a mature student at like 21, which isn't very mature at all. So I was like 27, 20, I think I was like 29 when I set it up, so it's not that young really. But in the great scheme of things, I guess, because you're like kind of still fresh out of uni, I just always wanted to like dance to the beat of my own drum. I moved in with my grandmother after doing an internship in Amsterdam, and she was like 103.
Wow.
So like I was like looking after her, and like obviously really lucky enough to have a place in London to live. So I feel like I'm from a kind of like working middle class background ish. I don't know what, we're so obsessed with class over here, aren't we? But
everywhere.
Yeah. But I think that the fact that she was just like came over as an immigrant from a Nazi occupied Poland during World War II and like learned how to be a seamstress, and she's always like been very different in her thinking as well, so I think that contributed. And also just like seeing how you can make something from nothing and start something from scratch. So
that's amazing. And then that's kind of what got you inspired, like seeing your grandma, like being surrounded by all these women, which that's why I love having women in the show, because like the more women you see that are like thriving and doing what they love, like the more you think that's natural. But then how did you get into saying, how did you get your first clients? How did you get into, I'm going to do this?
I went to like lots of networking events, and one of them actually wasn't a networking event. So it was like I went on a protest against austerity here in London, and just like the housing prices, the increase of them and stuff. And obviously that's got so much more out of hand now than in 2014, which is when I was on the march. And there I met like Russel Brand's PR guy. And I was just like, oh, if you ever need any graphic design, then hit me up.
That is super cool.
Yeah, get in touch. And he was like, 2 months later, I thought that like nothing would come of it. But then 2 months later, he got back in touch saying that Russel Brand's like best-selling book was out, and that they had some money left over in the marketing budget to invest in some like animations. So I studied traditional animation in Budapest on Erasmus back in 2011-12. And that's where you draw like every single frame by frame. So it's 24 frames per second that allows your eye to see that there's movement in a very fluid way. So I thought I'll use those skills to create some marketing campaigns around the book Revolution. And by the time the first one had been online for 24 hours, it had got 230,000 views.
Wow.
Already, so it's quite a lot. And that just gave me a taste. For
he was your first client?
It was like Penguin Publishers. I never met him, but it was like Penguin Publishers just commissioned me to do that.
Okay.
Was, really cool.
That is super cool. That's a very nice first project.
It was nice because it was like I didn't go with the intention, obviously, of getting work from it, but it kind of gave me the understanding that if you're just open and you chat and kind of go out and meet different people and have like an intention to do what you love, then you like it'll come to you, kind of thing. So
yes, awesome. And then, well, that was your first client that you were not basically intending to find him as a client, but then over the years, have you had like moments that you're like, oh shoot, what am I going to do now? Where am I going to find my next client? Like, those moments of like stress and despair.
Definitely. It's feast or famine, isn't it? It's like really up and down. You never know like what's going to happen next. So I think it's super important to be like on it in terms of marketing and all of that when you are really busy, and putting your feelers out for the next job, even when it feels like the one that you've currently got on is quite a lot. It's like that's going to end. It's like everything's temporary, isn't it? So because
it's not like people, let's say like me, that we have a salary. So it's like every month we just like get your salary. You work a lot, but you get salary. But if you run your business, then you have like to worry about getting paid to have a salary and to pay like your staff. Because now you have like people.
It's very real, and like I don't have anything to kind of like fall back on. So I'm always aware about like how it might not work tomorrow, not literally tomorrow, but in
the future.
It's like, it's also, I guess the pandemic has made us all realize how nothing is stable, and the way that the governments are just everything. It's like you can't rely on just things coming to you. You always have to go out and make things happen, I think. And I think it helps being a bit of a doer. Like I've always wanted like being quite hands-on with things.
And then saying what you've said, what inspires you? Like, is it the fear of not having that thing tomorrow, or is it more of the love, the passion for what you do? Like, what motivates you and keeps you going?
It's definitely a bit of both. So it's
because fear is a good motivator. Like,
totally that. But genuinely the love of what I do. So like if I wasn't concerned about you know, where the next paycheck or client would come from, then I'd definitely be still doing something creative in support of the business, like, because time is money, isn't it? And yeah.
Yes, it seems like you have like a lot of wisdom that you've acquired over the years building the business.
It's thanks to, I had like the best mentor who had run lots of successful businesses himself, and I just learned so much from him. So that's another thing, I guess, like I'm always trying to think like, am I doing what he would have
mentored you to
like
do.
kind of advised me to do, that kind of thing.
That is cool.
Cool.
And as part of that, I guess, like developing that wisdom, learning from other mentors, what's been the role of faith in your journey as an entrepreneur, businesswoman that you are?
I feel like things always just work out for me.
That's amazing. Well, that's what faith is for, right?
Like I know that they also can't, but I don't know. I just feel like things will always be fine. But my faith in general is like, I'm not religious, although I respect people who are religious. I just think that I'm like very faithful and in the knowledge that things will work out the way you want them to if you put the work in.
I love that. Is there in any way that you cultivate that belief? Any rituals that you do?
Is there any way that I cultivate that belief in the
belief,
ritual?
That belief that it's like things are going to
I think just definitely like having some respite from the business. Like it's all about balance, isn't it? And it's like I think if you get serious about anything, too serious about anything, you get stupid. So I like try not to work weekends.
I'm going to put that quote big, like a big quote, like LinkedIn. Here you go. You'll see that.
It's the same with like overthinking things, isn't it? It's like or even just like writing a newsletter, for example. It's like you write it, it's quite rough, and then you put it into the e-newsletter template, for example, and it's like there comes a point where it's like perfect, and then you start to over-engineer it, and then it's like, God, why did I spend all that time? It was perfect like
at the
a
beginning.
Week ago.
Exactly. I think we can all relate to that.
So that kind of thing. So I think that you only really get that perspective from having breaks and downtime. So I'm a firm believer in that. And
amazing. So I'll change gears a little bit, and I want to move away from your journey and move a little bit more into your business as such. So you are an expert in design and branding, let's say. If I am a woman or a man, right? And I am starting to build my brand, why could you say it is not my brand? I'm starting to build my business. Why do you think it's so important that we build a brand as part of building the business?
I see. So we live like in a world of symbols, and like we think oftentimes in visuals rather than words. So I think that things are so instantly recognizable. Like our job is to create a lasting logo. Like Coca-Cola have a logo that you're like, okay, that's them. And the same with Apple, Nike, whoever else who's a successful kind of brand. So first of all, it's like to be instantly recognizable, because it takes people just a couple of seconds to make their mind up about you. And also, like if they hear the advert on a podcast, for example, then they'll instantly think of the brand. Color and typography both work on an emotional level as well. So it's like you can evoke certain feelings of how you want people to perceive your brand and speak directly to your target audience, and even attract the people who you know will buy your drink or makeup brand or whatever it is. So working with a good designer will allow you to do that. Also, in answering your question, I think a lot of people want to be an entrepreneur these days, but it's almost like the word has almost lost its meaning. Like I see myself as a business owner, and I think it's been overused a lot. but a lot of people do want to dance to the beat of their own drum, and that's fair enough. But I guess the more and more people are kind of segueing into that, and I think it's by 2027 that most people will be like all self-employed in some sense, so whether that's freelance or
that is
that's
like
the US
soon
in the US.
in the US.
Yeah, but whatever happens there seems to then happen here,
to be like in the UK and then Asia and then Latin America and then boom, Africa, and then everybody, it's like by 2030 everybody's business owner slash solopreneur slash entrepreneur, however you want to call it, but it's like someone who's starting something from scratch.
Totally. Which is great in a way, but it's like, it's so interesting how the world's shifting. I also teach design every Wednesday and Thursday evening at like an adult education course. It's a school called Shillington, and they're people from all walks of life who are wanting to retrain. Like, they might not be happy in their current job as an Uber driver or as a hairdresser, or like working as an account manager for Costa Coffee or something like that. So people just really want to do their own thing, or even upskill, but gone are the days where you just have one career for your whole life.
I think that is true. I think we're seeing that change faster than we thought. It's just like happening very fast, and that's why branding is so important as well, because like now everybody wants to be a brand, be a business, therefore you need to have your own identity as such.
So there's like personal branding, and then there's like branding for a product or service, and I find that really interesting, because I guess Instagram has a lot to answer for as well in terms of that. It's like people are like the lines between personal and private life are getting more blurred. So if you want to have a personal brand, I'd like definitely recommend keeping a sense of yourself separate. Like, if you're going to use your name as your company, like I do, then like it's super important that I don't have any access to Instagram or like turn WhatsApp off over a certain time period, because it just like, you're like, who is this?
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's such a relevant point. Like, if I am someone who's starting a business, even if it's a cake business, a hummus or whatever, what are the 3 or 4 things that I need to do to get started into building my brand?
I think about like defining your demographic. So who are your audience? Who are you speaking to? I come up with some goals, like think about what your like 1, 3, 5 year goals are. Think about like how much you want to be selling and making, like realistically. And like define your tone of voice as well. So make sure that like your tone of voice, your copywriting, and likewise with any branding that you have, has to be consistent, because that builds trust and all of the rest. So it's super important that you think about some of the brands who you like and write down why you like them, and then maybe use that as a kind of anchor point. I'm saying this because it's like the kind of work that we do within a brand strategy session with our clients who come to us when they really don't know what to do. I'd also think of like the pain and gain points of your customer and really get to know them, like set up a persona profile and do a bit of empathy mapping, which is like, where would they hang out, what would they listen to, and all of that stuff is super helpful. Then later on down the line, as you do grow, you can like target your marketing to those audiences and people. But also, like, if you're not able to invest in branding with a designer straight away, then at least you've got like the framework and a really, really clear brief to brief in a good designer with later on. Because the last thing you want to do is like go to Fiverr and say, oh, could you create a logo for me? And it's super random, and it can end up being so expensive because you're like, no, I don't like it, I want to spend another $5, and then it's like,
no. And I think it's important that you do not leave the work to the designer 100%. You have to do exactly like you say, like the brief, the thinking, the research, such that when you engage with a professional, then you can guide them a little bit so that then they can extract the essence of what you want to portray. Otherwise, they're just doing like a design. It's not the essence of you that they want to put out there. Yeah,
exactly. Definitely. Yeah.
That's so important. And it's like, I'm coming back to tone of voice. That is so important, yet it's so intangible. It's so, at the same time it's easy, but at the same time it's difficult to get. And even incorporating startups or as a personal brand, let's say, it does require thinking, and it's so easy to forget.
Yeah exactly that. A lot of thinking. It goes behind it if you want to do it properly.
Yes. I'm like,
and thinking, sometimes like I oftentimes think like half of my job is just having that pair of fresh eyes when I'm doing strategy work, because it's like when you're in it, you're so in the business. But obviously it's like all the kind of 15 years of experience that I have had building brands from scratch as well, that kind of qualify me to help bring brands to life. But also, if you are on a budget, then I'd recommend working with someone who, like, a friend, like just bouncing ideas around with them, someone who works maybe in the creative industries, something like that. Yes,
totally. So I'm going to change gears again and coming back to you. So I would like to know two things. This is more like on the personal side. One is, what is your big dream and what impact would you like to have in the world?
My big dream is to have 3 children, live somewhere really nice, and be able to like still do what I'm doing in terms of design and branding, because that's it's definitely what I love. Working with maybe bigger companies who have the need of a rebrand, but are also kind of like willing to take my lead, because I'll obviously do the research thoroughly and come up with something that's good for them and that's going to speak to their audience, and then just make like oodles of money. Sorry.
Why not? Exactly. We can have it all. That's what we're all aiming, right? Like to have the freedom to do whatever we want, and money is important.
Exactly. I do wonder, so many people like want to build a brand with purpose, and I'm like, that's great. Like, no, I know that is like a lot of people's intentions, really, but it's like, who's just saying that and who is actually like who means it, kind of thing. It's the same thing with like greenwashing, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's coming back to balance. It's about having a balance. Like, everyone wants to build a business that does something good for people, right? Because like you don't want to go and build a business that does harm for people. Some people do, but not most of us. But at the same time, like, you have financial needs, you have your own dreams, and then money is important. So I think you can have purpose, you can have business, and then you can basically have both, have the money and the business.
Exactly. I really just want a simple life, like that's all. Just nothing too much, just like comfortable.
Yes.
There's a quote that I read the other day by Freud. It's like, I don't know exactly the words because it was on someone else's LinkedIn thing, but it was like, the only 2 things are love and work. And I was like, oh, actually kind of makes sense. Like, it's either those 2 things, isn't it? You're thinking about love, well, for me anyway, or work.
No, but it's true. Talking about love, how do you manage running a business and relationships?
It's easy.
Awesome. Okay, tell us how.
And just making time. Like, I think that the no weekends thing works, and also people need space as well. I'm quite a highly charged person, so he probably appreciates some
space
time. I mean, I've got the teaching job as well on a Wednesday and Thursday evening, so that rules out time, but I find it really easy.
Amazing. So as we are reaching towards the end of our conversation, I have a little ritual that I believe when we tap into our hearts, like a lot of wisdom comes to us. So if I ask you like to close your eyes and then put your hands in your heart, and then what could your future self tell you as piece of advice right now?
Do the things that my mentor told me to do.
Do the things
do all the things that I know are good for me, please.
As simple as that. We all know. We already know.
Yeah,
we already
I know.
what
There's
the
like, there's knowing it and then there's doing it, isn't
yes,
there? They're
exactly.
two totally different things. It's mad. It's like my my main thing, putting everything into action. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. It's like beautiful advice, future self from Alexandra. We will all listen. Awesome. Well, Alexandra, it's been an absolute pleasure having you today. It's been a very cozy and nice conversation. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much.
Before we go, where can we find you?
LinkedIn. Yes, Twitter, Instagram. So like all of those social media platforms, it's basically Alexandra Lunn Studio, and you can find out more about who we are and what we do on our website. So it's www.alexandralunn.com. But yeah, I'd love to hear from anyone, and offer like a kind of free consultation for anybody who's interested in learning about the world of branding and design, or just has like any kind of like burning questions about how to take their brand to the next level. So yeah, get in touch. It's info at alexandralunn.com.
Amazing. Thank you. And yes, I'll put that in the notes. So everyone, if you didn't get that, then just go back to the podcast notes and then you can find the email, LinkedIn, website, and everything. And do get in touch with Alexandra for your free consultation. So it's been a pleasure, Alexandra. Thank you so much. And everyone, sending you much love. Bye-bye.